taught this dua through a hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu narrated, and he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he once said to his daughter Fatima radiyallahu anha, he said to her, ما يمنعك أن تسمعي ما أوصيك به أن تقولي إذا أصبحت وإذا أمسيت يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث أصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين. Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam told his daughter Fatima, what is preventing you from listening and doing what I am advising you of? That you say, when you reach the morning and you reach the evening, say, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, which is, oh, the ever living. We're going to explain this word. And this name of Allah Azza wa Jal, the sustainer of all. I seek help and assistance through your mercy. Rectify and perfect for me all my affairs, and do not entrust me. Don't leave me to myself even for the blink of an eye. Brothers and sisters in Islam, this is advice from Sayyidul Khalq, the chief, the greatest of mankind, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to his daughter, and his daughter is Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen, Sayyidatu Ahlil Jannah. She is the chief, the greatest of all women, from the greatest man to the greatest woman. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is teaching this dua, this dhikr. Fatima, of course, radiyallahu anha, she died young. She was only 25 years old. Aisha radiyallahu anha, she says that I have never seen anyone more similar to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam than Fatima. Fatima was very similar to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. She was similar to him in his manners, in his character, and in most of his affairs. Even the way she walked. She would walk exactly like her father, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as Aisha radiyallahu anha narrated this she narrated this about her. And when Fatima radiyallahu anha, she'd enter upon the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, upon her father, he would stand for her. He would kiss her and sit her in his place. And if he sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered upon her, she would get up, kiss him and sit him in his place, as Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah narrated. So this is now great advice from the greatest to the greatest. How much more are you and I in need of this dua and this dhikr? Bi-idhnillah, you'll realize its importance once we go through its words. But there's a few matters to observe here before we start with this dhikr. Number one, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as a father, would encourage his family upon the worship of Allah. In this instance, he is teaching his daughter a dua. And this, brothers and sisters in Islam, is from the most fundamental of matters of maintaining a righteous family, especially in today's day and age. Today's day and age, there's all sorts of corruption and fasad and fitan, az-zina, al-riba, al-shirk is all over the place, homosexuality. Parents are worried, they're terrified. I bring a child to this worldly life, and that's the situation on earth. That's the situation of the society and the community we're living in. So parents are worried, and rightfully so. But I say, what have you done about it? What have you done? What have we done other than just complain? Wallah brother, this country and that and fasad and wherever you go. This is all we've done, complain. Yet the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is teaching us that if you actually had a concern for your family, then you would teach them a deen. And from this matter is this dua. One of the greatest matters that will save your family from corruption and fasad around you, no matter how strong it got, was to teach them their deen. Because nothing will protect you from al-fasad and sins other than knowledge in Allah Azza wa Jal and knowledge in al-Islam. And that was the life of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Imagine he is teaching Fatima, she is already promised the paradise. Why is he teaching her this great dua and this dhikr and many other worships? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he would wake up Ali and Fatima to observe the night prayer. He would wake up his own wife for al-witr. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would say, may Allah bestow His mercy upon a man that got up and prayed at night and woke his wife up, and if she didn't, he sprinkled some water in her face so that she gets up and prays as well. See Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam how he would encourage this attitude of the husband and wife and the family, encouraging, motivating one another upon the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. For indeed this matter is a lifesaver in a day and age that we are in. And so this is the greatest responsibility you have towards your family, to teach them a deen. More than sheltering them, feeding them, providing them water to drink and clothing them and paying their education and taking them for certain entertainments and so on. All of that is good, all of that you need to do. But above the list is you teaching them their deen. This is what you'll be questioned for on the Day of Judgment, and that's the greatest of matters. Right? And there are hundreds of stories in the Quran about Allah Azza wa Jal telling us about parents, fathers, and their relationship with their children and how they would advise them upon the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, like Yaqub and Ibrahim and Luqman, and these stories are plenty in the Quran. So that's what we're learning from this hadith, just by observing the chain. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam teaching Fatima, then I as a father, as a mother, need to be teaching my children as well. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a role model in every aspect, a role model in how correct parenting should be, and above the list is you teaching your family. Number two, we observe from this hadith the style of speech. Have you noticed what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said? It wasn't me, Ya Fatima, every morning, every evening, say such and such. Listen to what he said. He said to her, Ya Fatima, ما يمنعك ما تسمعي أن أوصيك به. He said to her, what is preventing you from listening and doing what I'm advising you of? See, this style of speech, it creates passion and eagerness and excitement in the heart of the listener to pay extra attention to what is about to be said. What is preventing you from doing what I advise you? Well, nothing is preventing Fatima. Nothing is preventing her from listening and implementing what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam wants to say to her. But there is something in this speech, it grabs attention. It's like if I was to say to you, I take you to the side and I say to you, brother, what is stopping you from listening to my advice? So you look at me in amazement. Nothing, wallah, tell me, what do you have? What do you have for me to say? So it's a kind of style that grabs the attention of the listener. And that's how knowledge should be. You should make it attractive, make it interesting, especially among the family members. So this is what the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is doing with his daughter. Now she's excited. She wants to listen. What does he have to tell me? What do I need to learn from him? And the third thing we observe in this hadith, and the final thing, is the word al-wasiyyah. What prevents you from listening to my advice? Al-wasiyyah. See, al-wasiyyah, what is al-wasiyyah? Al-wasiyyah is when someone commands you to do good or recommends to you a good deed with emphasis. So we realize from this word al-wasiyyah, it's like the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam held this dua in high regard in his heart. And like this is something really precious. This is a wasiyyah, ya Fatima. You know, it's like someone departing this worldly life. You know al-wasiyyah is, we all know al-wasiyyah is the book, is the will that a person writes before his death. So al-wasiyyah is like, Fatima, I'm giving you parting advice. This is going to be so real, so honest. If there's anything I need to tell you, take this before I die. So this is powerful dua, powerful dhikr that he's teaching her. It begins, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. That's how it begins, Allahu Akbar. Calling Allah Azza wa Jal with two great names of His, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The ever living, the maintainer and sustainer of all things. And this is called at-tawassul. At-tawassul means to seek a way to Allah Azza wa Jal. There are certain ways in how you can call unto Allah Azza wa Jal. One of these ways is to go through His names and attributes. هذا التوسل. التوسل, seeking a way to Allah Azza wa Jal through His names and attributes. And these are two great names of Allah Azza wa Jal. And by the way, this is one of the greatest etiquette of dua. before you begin your dua, you start by praising Allah Azza wa Jal. The best way to praise Allah is by calling onto His beautiful names. That's exactly what Allah Azza wa Jal said. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. To Allah Azza wa Jal belongs the most beautiful names. So call unto Him through them. So this dua now, before we're seeking Allah's mercy and help and aid, we're calling onto two beautiful names of His. We're saying, Ya Hayy, Ya Qayyum. And I tell you something, like Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha, we don't Allahu Akbar, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. La. Praise Allah first. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. This is all a praise of Allah. Then acknowledge your state that you're a humble servant before Allah. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. And now you're in a good position to make a dua. Make your dua, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. And there is something significant and special about these two names, Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum. See, these two names have been mentioned as being the greatest names of Allah Azza wa Jal. There is an authentic hadith, Abu Umam al-Bahili radiyallahu anhu narrates, and he says that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ismullahi al-A'zam, the greatest name of Allah. الذي إذا دعي به أجاب. If you were to call unto Him through these names, you will most definitely be answered. He said they are found in 3 surah of the Quran: Surah Al-Baqarah, Ali Imran, and Surah Taha. If you look closely to these 3 surah, you're going to find 2 names of Allah that repeat in every one of these 3 surah, and that is no doubt Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. In Surah Ali Imran, Alif Lam Mim, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-Hayy al-Qayyum. In Surah Taha, وَعَنَتِ الْوُجُوهُ لِلْحَيِّ الْقَيُّومِ. Allahu Akbar. Even now the greatest name of Allah Azza wa Jal that you can ever call Him with is Al-Hayy al-Qayyum. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah actually mentioned this. And other scholars mentioned that the greatest name of Allah is His name Allah. Right? And there's no problem that you call unto Allah through His name, Ya Allah. That's excellent as well. That's a great name of Allah. Al-Hayy al-Qayyum. You mix it around and bi-idhnillahi ta'ala your dua will be answered by Allah Azza wa Jal. So we're off to a powerful start. Ya Hayy Ya Qayyum. Why are they the greatest names of Allah? I tell you why. These 2 names of Allah, they actually combine and they gather all the names and attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why they're the most powerful and considered the greatest names of Allah Azza wa Jal. How so? What do we mean? That they combine and they gather all the names and attributes of Allah? Let me tell you basic language. You see, the attributes of Allah are of 2 types. There's something called Sifat Dhatiyah. These are attributes that are ascribed to the self of Allah Azza wa Jal. Self attributes, right? They have always been intrinsically inherent and bound to the self of Allah Azza wa Jal. Such as Allah is Al-Alim, knowledgeable, Al-Ilm, Wal-Qudra, ability, Wal-Izzah, might and power, Wal-Hikmah, wisdom. These are what? These are called Sifat Dhatiyah. Self attributes. Allah has always been Alim. He's always been Qadir. He's always been Hakim. Right? And then there is something called As-Sifat Al-Fi'liyah, meaning actional attributes. So one, self attributes, and then there is actional attributes, attributes that are ascribed to actions of Allah Azza wa Jal, such as Al-Istiwa, Allah ascending and being established upon the throne, such as descending, and Nuzul, Allah Azza wa Jal, He comes down. These happen whenever Allah Azza wa Jal wants to exercise them, right? And there is Al-Maji, that Allah Azza wa Jal comes on the Day of Judgment. Now, the attribute Ya Hayy, when we say the name of Allah Al-Hayy, it includes all As-Sifat Al-Dhatiyah, all the attributes that ascribe Allah Azza wa Jal. They are all included Al-Hayy. And we say Al-Qayyum, the one who is the sustainer of all things, that includes all As-Sifat Al-Fi'liyah, the attributes that are ascribed to His actions. So Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum covers everything about Allah Azza wa Jal's names and attributes. Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. I tell you, brothers and sisters in Islam, listen to this. The one who knows the name of Allah Al-Hayy will most definitely find peace and comfort and tranquility in his life, no doubt. I'll give you an example. Imagine a child. He comes to his father and he says to his father, Father, if you die, Who will feed us? Who will provide for us? Who will look after us? Who's going to drive us around? Who will pay our rent? Imagine a young boy saying to his father like this, all worried. And this is not a case to imagine. This is actually happening. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it easier upon our brothers and sisters in Islam. This is the concern of children in a battle zone. They say to them, if you die, who will look after us? Who will pay our rent? Who will feed us? This is real. Then imagine now, the father turns back to his child and says to him, son, don't worry. I am Hayy. I'm alive. I'm here. And so long as I'm here, son, you don't have to worry about anything. How much comfort does that bring to this child? To the kid, he's comforted. Oh, okay, my dad's here, he's alive, so things are all good. Allahu Akbar. And to Allah Azza wa Jal, of course, belongs the highest of examples. But Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us He is Al-Hayy. He is the all-living, He never dies. This is supposed to bring immense comfort and peace and tranquility to the heart. Knowing that Allah, your sustainer, your provider, your creator, the one who decrees all your affairs and matters, is alive. Al-Hayy subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see this name of Allah, Al-Hayy, it settled down a community that fell into chaos and panic and worry. And that is when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died. You and I will never understand what it means that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam died. Those companions that were alive at the time and witnessed and experienced the death of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam were all shaken. Umar radiallahu anhu, he denied it. Gets onto the minbar, not on the minbar, he's just screaming among the people, anyone who says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has died, I'll deal with him. He only went to Allah like Musa went and he'll come back. And he's in denial. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he falls. Ali radiallahu anhu falls. The Sahaba, all of them are in shock. People are crying. Al-Masjid is just, it's screaming with pain and agony. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu takes the opportunity and walks in, and really no one wanted to listen to him. Until Umar radiallahu anhu, he said to him, sit down. He didn't want to sit down, so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu proceeded until he got to the minbar and he got up. You know what he did? He said to the people, imagine, he said to them, brothers and sisters in Islam, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has passed away, inna lillahi wa, no one would have heard him. But he read to them Quran and he reminded them of the name of Allah, Al-Hayy. He said to them, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله حي لا يموت. Anyone who worships Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then he has died. And anyone who worships Allah, then Allah is all living. He doesn't die. And it comforted an entire people. Imagine, the name of Allah, Al-Hayy, that was the secret, in the words of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, to settle down an entire community of companions that were shaken by this calamity. The name of Allah Azza wa Jalla, I'm telling you, Al-Hayy, it is enough to instill that comfort and peace in the heart of the believer. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى الْحَيِّ الَّذِي لَا يَمُوتُ. Put your trust and rely upon Al-Hayy, the one who does not die. You see, here He said, وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى الْحَيِّ. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى الْحَيِّ. Why? You know, when we ask the question, why do we have to rely upon Allah? Hey, the answer is in the ayah itself, because He's Al-Hayy. And if you rely upon Al-Hayy, that means all your affairs bi'idhnillah will be fulfilled, because you relied upon a strong source. You relied upon the all-living. And if you rely upon other than Allah, then everything other than Allah is doomed, it's destroyed, it perishes, it's weak, it's going to die. So if you rely on other than Allah, you relied on something that is very weak. So the moment that thing dies and it's destroyed, you have unfinished business. You relied on someone that died. What do I do now? Who do I go to? فَإِذَنْ وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى الْحَيِّ. That's why we rely upon Him, because He is alive no matter. So because Allah Azza wa Jalla is alive, your matters will always be fulfilled. And so this is why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is teaching Fatima radiallahu anha. Make this dua. Remember the name of Allah Al-Hayy in the early hours of the morning after Salat al-Fajr. And again after Al-Asr. This is the name of Allah you cannot be heedless of. You cannot forget this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, the one who lives heedless of the name of Allah Azza wa Jal Al-Hayy lives a miserable life. The moment you learn this name and you come close to Allah through His name Al-Hayy, you'll find much peace and comfort in your life. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used to say from his dua, Allahumma laka aslamtu wa bika amantu wa alayka tawakkaltu wa ilayka anabtu wa bika khasamtu. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika izzatika la ilaha illa anta an tudillani. Anta al-hayyu alladhi la yamut wal jinnu wal insu yamutun. What does all this mean? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used to make a dua. He used to say, Oh Allah, to you alone I have submitted, and in you alone I believe, and upon you I rely, and to you alone I turn in repentance, and for you alone I compete and I fight the enemy. Oh Allah, I seek protection from your might that you misguide me. You are the all-living, the one who doesn't die while jinn and mankind die. When the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam knew the name of Allah Al-Hayy, that's when he was able to announce that he submits to Allah alone, and he believes in Him, and he relies upon Him, and he repents to Him, and he battles for Him. He does everything, khalas. Because of the name of Allah Azza wa Jal Al-Hayy. Now all this is possible. All these types of worships are possible. Allahu Akbar. The name of Allah Azza wa Jal Al-Hayy. It perfects and completes the tawheed of a person that is supposed to be in his heart. A heart that doesn't know the name of Allah Al-Hayy is very, very deficient in its tawheed to Allah Azza wa Jal. Well, Hayy is opposite to Al-Mayyit. Hayy, the all-living, opposite to that, the dead. Subhanallah. See, the name of Allah Al-Hayy, the all-living, the one who possesses complete and perfect life, unlike human beings and animal kind and jinn. We're Hayy as well. We're Hayy. We have Hayat, we're living. But our life, our Hayat, this attribute of ours is very weak and very faulty and very deficient. Allah Azza wa Jal, Him being Al-Hayy, is very complete and perfect. I give you an example. For example, us, there came a stage in life where we didn't even exist. لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Then that's the first deficiency. Number two, when we sleep, we are considered dead. النوم أخو الموت. Sleep is the brother of death. That's in deficient life. Our hayat is it's deficient. When we get sick and ill and it takes a toll on our life is incomplete. When we are heedless and we're not aware of our surrounding, we're considered dead as well. And then eventually we will die. So look at our hayat, how faulty it is compared to the name of Allah Al-Hayy. He has always existed. That's why He is Al-Awwal, the first. He doesn't have a beginning. Nothing came before Him. Because if anything came before Him, that would be the Lord. So nothing came before Him. And this is why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, Allah Al-Awwal, alladhi laysa qablahu shay'. There's nothing before Him. And He's Al-Akhir. He's the last. What does it mean that Allah is the last? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, فَلَيْسَ بَعْدَكَ شَيْءٍ. Meaning, He remains after everything is destroyed. That's what Al-Akhir means. He remains after everything is destroyed. There is no ending for Him. And that's why He is Al-Hayy, the all-living. He never dies. Therefore, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah Azza wa Jal. Ibrahim alayhi salam used to use the name of Allah Al-Hayy in his da'wah. He used to look at his people and they used to worship idols. And he would say to them, هَلْ يَسْمَعُونَكُمْ إِذْ تَدْعُونَ. Do these idols of yours, do they listen to you when you call out unto them? No, they don't, because they're dead. What is he saying in this? He's saying, but my Lord listens if you call because He's Al-Hayy. You see, he used to bring this in his da'wah. Very effective. Anyone that is upon a worship other than worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal could be challenged in his faith. Who are you worshipping? What are you turning to? An animal or a stone or a rock or a human being? All of these matters die. Once they're finished, once they're dead, who do you call on to? Like Ibrahim alayhi salam, once again, he will come out to them. He's establishing proof against them. He'll say to them, look at the stars. They're my Lord. Oh, he doesn't mean that they're his Lord, but he's establishing a case against his people. He's going to make them fall in a trap. Otherwise, Ibrahim is very certain that Allah is his Lord. But he wants to expose their foolishness. So he says, look at the stars. They're my Lord. So once they disappeared, he said, I don't like things that come and go. Oh, what's this Lord? If I want to call unto my Lord in the morning, well, I need to wait until the night for him to appear again. Doesn't make sense. So he sees the moon. He says, this is my Lord. But then when the moon went, what's this Lord? During the day I need to call him as well. It's very important. He's gone. So once the sun came out, khalas, this one's the big one. This is my Lord. Then when it disappeared, khalas, he came out to them and he established, he says, إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. I've turned and I've submitted to the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Ibrahim alayhi salam wasn't confused about who his Lord was. He knows Allah is his Lord. But he said what he said to expose his people. I can't have the stars as my Lord. I need to call unto my Lord 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week. The stars won't do this because they don't appear in the day. The moon won't do that because it doesn't appear in the day. The sun won't do this because it doesn't appear in the night. Subhanallah. So he establishes once again a da'wah through the name of Allah al-Hayy. Allah is Hayy. He is available for me. Any time of the day and the night I can raise my hand and I call unto him and he listens and he answers. Subhanallah. Allah Azza wa Jal is al-Hayy. Al-Hayy meaning he's the one who gave life. Allah Azza wa Jal gives life to whoever he wants in unimaginable ways. Like when that man was killed among Bani Israel and they were confused who killed him. So Allah Azza wa Jal commands them to slaughter a cow. And after a long story of questions and answers, eventually they grab a cow and they kill it. They take a part of the cow, its leg, its head, whatever it is, they took apart. Allah said to them, اضربوه ببعضها. Take some of the cow and strike the dead person with it. كذلك يحيي الله الموتى. And Allah Azza wa Jal resurrected him. Al-Hayy resurrected a man that had died in front of everyone to witness and see. He got up, he announced who his killer was, and he went back and died. This is Allah's name, Al-Hayy. He gives life to his creation in unimaginable ways. And just like that, Allah Azza wa Jal will resurrect us on the Day of Judgment. When you think of the name of Allah, Al-Hayy, it reminds you of your resurrection until you'll stand before Allah Azza wa Jal, held accountable for everything that you did and said. And the greatest effect of the name of Allah Al-Hayy, and listen to this very carefully, that Allah Azza wa Jal gives the believers life with Iman. This is from the greatest meanings of Al-Hayy. He gives us life through Iman. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about man kana maytan, a person that had died. Death in this ayah here refers to al-kufr. His soul and his heart and his state is dead with disbelief. فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ. We gave him life. Life here meaning we guided him to Islam and Iman. So every time you say Al-Hayy, it's like within your heart you're saying, oh Allah, grant me the most important hayat, the most important life I'm supposed to possess and hold, and that is a life upon Iman and Islam. This is all in the name of Allah Al-Hayy, and so much more. But the name of Allah Al-Hayy, I shared with you some things. These are the manners that you're supposed to be conscious of when you're calling out to Allah Azza wa Jal's great name, Al-Hayy. Allahu Akbar. طيب, Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Hayy. How does that benefit me? Why should I depend on Him? Why should I rely on Him? Because He is also Al-Qayyum. Al-Qayyum. Al-Qayyum always comes with the name of Allah Al-Hayy. They're inseparable. These two are always together. Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. Al-Qayyum يعني القائم بنفسه المقيم لغيره. Very simple definition. Al-Qayyum means the self-sufficient. He is independent of His creation, and all His creation at the same time are in desperate need of Him. هذا القيوم. You got it? Very simple language. Al-Qayyum. He doesn't need us. We desperately need Him. هذا القيوم. We cannot exist without Allah Azza wa Jal. He provides for us. He nurtures us. He sustains us. He guides us, and everything else in life He does for us. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, أَفَمَنْ هُوَ قَائِمٌ from his name Al-Qayyum. أَفَمَنْ هُوَ قَائِمٌ عَلَى كُلِّ نَفْسٍ. Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about him being the one who provides and sustains all nafs, all souls and all living creatures on earth. Allahu Akbar. You see, us, we depend on each other for survival, right? The baby is depending on his mother and his parents that he keeps alive. Then the child depends on his parents. Then once you grow up and you're a child, you depend on your teachers that they teach you, educate you, you learn from them. We see that the wife depends on the husband for financial responsibility, for him to fulfill his financial responsibility. The husband is depending on his work and his boss that he pays him, and all of us are linked in one way or another. We depend on each other. The sick is depending on the doctor to give him the cure, the medicine, whatever it is, and so on. But Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't depend on anyone. Doesn't depend on anyone for his existence at all. If I was to tell you, I said to your brother, sister, can you be a qayyum tonight for the street that you live in? Just for one night and just for your street. That means you need to provide for everyone on that street. You need to solve all their problems. You need to listen to their requests and their needs in their multiple languages. But bad luck, khalas, you got to learn and you got to know and understand everyone. Then you need to regulate everyone's blood pressure in the street and maintain everyone's cells and their organ functions. Then you need to look after every bird and every dog and every cat and every insect and anything that crawls and moves up and down that street. But then you can't even regulate your own inside. What's inside of you, you can't even get to. How are you going to be a qayyum for your street? That's why أَفَمَنْ هُوَ قَائِمٌ. Allah Azza wa Jal does that. Not only for your street, but for every street in the country, and then for the entire globe, and he's been doing it from day one until the end of time. Al-Qayyum, Allahu Akbar, Al-Qayyum. And he's not distracted by anything, and everything is done at the same time. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَمَا خَلْقُكُمْ وَلَا بَعْثُكُمْ إِلَّا كَنَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. All of us in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla like one single body. He creates us all like one body, and He causes us death like one body, and He resurrects us all like one body, and He looks after us all like one body. Subhanallah, Al-Hayyu, Al-Qayyum, the one who knows the name of Allah, Al-Qayyum. His heart increases in knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal, and his heart begins to recognize the greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Al-Hayyu, Al-Qayyum, you can't do a single thing without Al-Qayyum. You can't wake up. You need Al-Qayyum to wake up. You need Al-Qayyum in order for you to eat and digest this food and remain healthy. You need Al-Qayyum to purify and rectify your heart and cleanse it from sins and transgression and rebellion. If you need money, you need Al-Qayyum. Whatever you need in life, you'll need Al-Qayyum subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, after calling Allah Azza wa Jal through these two powerful, beautiful names of His that have so much relevance in your life, there is Al-Hayy all around in your life. The fact that you're still alive, that's because Allah is Al-Hayy. The fact that you're sustained and you've eaten today, it's because of Allah Al-Qayyum. Now you're calling onto these two names. You're acknowledging the favor of Allah Azza wa Jal upon you. Now look at this. And remember, I told you these are two names of Allah that if you were to ask Him through them, the dua is most likely accepted and not rejected. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells her, teaches her to say, بِرَحْمَتِكَ أَسْتَغِيث. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, بِرَحْمَتِكَ أَسْتَغِيث. O all living and the sustainer of all things, through your mercy alone I seek your help and assistance. What a powerful dua. بِرَحْمَتِكَ أَسْتَغِيث. You know, in the Arabic language, it's perfectly fine to flip them over and to say أستغيث برحمتك. You can say that. So what is the difference between saying, as it mentioned in the hadith, برحمتك first, then أستغيث? It creates something called the ikhtisas. It implies exclusivity. What does that mean? It means only through your mercy and no one else I'm going to seek help. And now you've just cut everyone out of the picture. Everyone's out of the equation. I don't involve anyone at all. The only one I'm seeking His help through His mercy is Allah Azza wa Jalla, no one else. Powerful. This in itself implies a tawheed in the heart of a person, because that's exactly the state you want to reach when you're in a deep calamity.